welcome into today's episode of Around the Slice. So I am very excited for this episode, you guys, because we are going to be officially kicking off our 2026 NFL offseason content for the Buffalo Bills specifically. And today I'm going to be looking at with you all a handful of internal free agents that the Buffalo Bills have and how and if they can retain their own players from over the years. We obviously all love outside these sexy names that can come in and kind of contribute right away, whether it's these big playmakers, these big proven defenders. And trust me, I can't wait for that as well. We will get to those targets on each side of the ball respectively, but the most important thing in free agency is retaining your own. Retaining and bringing back your own players that have given you meaningful contributions over the years. So that's exactly what we're going to break down today. The Buffalo Bills have 21 unrestricted free agents, and wink, wink, spoiler alert, there's not anything overwhelmingly to be concerned with or worried about with, if I'm being honest with you guys. But we still will go through all of them with each of the 21 UFAs, unrestricted free agents. If you don't know, we're going to go through their age as of the start of the 2026 NFL regular season. So their age as of September 3rd, 2026. We're going to go over their previous AAV. So what contract did they just play on? The Spot Check salary projection. Spot Check is a great free agency and cap resource that provides market values and all that. And then I'm going to go over selfishly what I want, and then an actual meaningful prediction, taking bias out of it and pushing bias, shoving it to the side, if you will. So this is in no order of importance. This is just what Spot Check gave me in terms of the list. First, Joey Bosa, defensive end. Again, quick note, ages are how old will they be as of September 3rd, 2026 coming up. Joey Bosa, defensive end, 31 years old, previous AAV. So what did he just finish playing on for a one-year deal? Well, 1 year, $12.6 million. I expressed my discomfort with this deal as soon as it happened. You guys can go back to last March when as soon as he signed, I gave an instant reaction where double digit, 10 plus million, damn near 13 million at that price point concerns me, because Joey Bosa coming into the year was old and injured. A 30-year-old, now 31, that's always injured, didn't jive with me, if you will. And funnily enough, even though he's barely injured this year, he played 15 out of the possible 17 games. His play still declined, even though he wasn't injured. First half of the season, he gets 5 sacks and 5 forced fumbles. He led the league in forced fumbles. That is awesome. That's great. But he declined significantly. It wasn't because of injury. It was just because he's going on 31 years old. So now we have a player that declines because of injury potentially, and potentially declines his play just because of his age. So that's not a good combo at all. His Spot Check salary projection, they have him a whole million more, 13.7 million. Like Joey Bosa, in my opinion, at this stage of his career is worth 7, maybe 8 million a year. I don't understand, based off of this past year, how you look at how he declined significantly in the second half of the season, his impact as a whole with the quote-unquote pass rush that he provided, and you look and say, hey, he deserves a $1 million pay bump. So because of that, what I want selfishly, I think this D-line, once again, for the millionth year in a row, McDermott or no McDermott, Brady or no Joe Brady, has to be revamped for the millionth year in a row. It's sad to say, but it just does. So selfishly, what I want to let him walk, and projection goes somewhere else. He doesn't fit into the Jim Leonard project very well, at all into this defense. And yeah, he was healthy this year, but how long will that keep up? And his body shut down because of his age, injury, or not. So that's how I'm treating Joey Bosa. Next, Daquan Jones, 30, defensive tackle. So I knew Daquan Jones was old, but I didn't know he was a mid-30s old. 34 years old, we're looking at. His previous AAV was $8 million when we signed him a couple years ago. I believe it was 2 years, 16. So quick math, 16 divided by 2, as you all know, $8 million. That's fine. I think 7 to 9 million is right around the range he deserved on that previous contract. Spot Check salary projection. This is the vet minimum. I was shocked to see, even though his plays declined, They only project him at $1.8 million on his new contract for AAV. So if we wanted to re-sign him, then we could do it for very cheaply, 1, 2, maybe 3 million. But they're projecting 1.8. What I don't want to bring him back. It's not because of that vet minimum type contract. That'd be great value at that point at 1.8 million, damn near around there. I just don't want to bring him back because the level of play. We have a clear succession plan at starting one tech with Deon Walker, who was one of the best rookie defensive tackles. Surprisingly pretty good against the run. Maybe struggles to anchor here and there and get off the ball and stuff. But yeah, clear succession plan at starting one tech with Deon Walker. So bringing him back or not would not come down to money, as we see from this failure projection from good old Spot Track. It would be about level of play. And I think his level of play of the last couple of years, specifically this past year or so, has dropped significantly. In my prediction, I believe he goes somewhere else. He signed with the Bills in first place because he was drafted by Sean McDermott as DC defense coordinator in Carolina all those years ago. And he's a Sean McDermott guy through and through. So I think a lot of these Sean McDermott transplants, if you will, from Carolina with the Panthers back in the day leave. Next, Connor McGovern, center. This is a big one, at least in terms of name recognition and name value across the league. 28 years old. So I thought he was like 29, pushing 30, because he's been in the league for like a handful of years now, if you look at it specifically and mainly, rather. But 28 years old, previous AAV, 7.5 million. I agree with Spot Track that he's going to get a significant pay bump of damn near $10 million pay bump, because they're projecting him to get $16.3 million a year, right around there. What I want at that price point, I let him walk. And my prediction is unbiased prediction is he goes somewhere else, because 16.3 million, like, Jesus, guys, that's resetting the center market. That's pushing top center money, Creed Humphrey. That's ridiculous. Creed Humphrey's better. That's pushing what Tyler Linderbaum is going to get on the open market from the Ravens or some other needy team, like the Chargers or Raiders, some shit like that. That's ridiculous. I would let some other top 5 cap space team throw some money that needs the center and rebuild their offensive line, like the Raiders, like the Chargers, like the Giants, if they want to upgrade from John Michael Schmitz. I'm not prepared, personally, to give Connor McGovern a market resetting contract at the center position. Listen, he's been good, and he knows his value. Comes in 2023, signs a great cheap deal for us, moderately cheap deal for us. He is a very solid starting left guard in 2023. Then we cut Mitch Morse, and then for the next 2 years, in 2024 and 2025, namely, specifically, he's a very solid starting center. But he was on Eric Wood's podcast a handful of months ago, and he basically alluded to the fact a few different times that back in March of 2023, he came to Buffalo because of Sean McDermott. He took a heavy discount because of the culture, and now he's going to chase the money, which I don't blame him. But Brandon Beane, I don't think, can justify giving a damn near market resetting contract to this guy. So I'm personally not a fan of doing that. So I don't want to do it, and predictively, I think he walks as well. Larry Ogunjobi. This one's going to be pretty quick, cut and dry. 32 years old, so he's older than I thought. Previous AAV, 6.7 million, which was still too much for his contributions, even though it's a moderate for a defensive tackle. Spot Track salary projection, $5 million a year, so they're giving him a pay downgrade, if you will. But this guy, like, was a slime ball in terms of how he came to Buffalo. He shows up to sign, and then right before he's about to sign, he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, Brandon, I'm going to be suspended for the first 6 games because I took some illegal drugs and illegal substances, rather, from the NFL. Roger Goodell in the NFL suspended me as the commissioner." And Brandon Beane goes, "Oh yeah, that's fine. We'll still sign you." So I think it's on both of them, but I think there's a very, like, shitty moral values, if you will, from Larry Ogunjobi. And, like, he was dreadful when he was on the field. He couldn't anchor very well. He was terrible against the run. Towards the end of the season, whether it's the Browns, whether it's the Eagles, I think in the wild card game against Jacksonville, he wasn't even getting a game day jersey, which I was perfectly fine with. But what in the frick is the point of that? $6 million a year is significant for a guy that's being a healthy scratch and suspended 6 games. So pretty cut and dry. I want to let him walk, and I think Brandon Beane is going to let him walk because I think he's pissed at him for kind of robbing him with that contract. So my prediction is he goes somewhere else. Next, man, this has been a staple since 2017. Matt Milano, linebacker, but he is 31 years old, and unfortunately, his last 3 years or so have been riddled by injuries, whether it's been a torn bicep a couple different times, a core muscle injury, soft tissue injury. His body's really catching up to him, and I think end of the season into the playoffs, we saw flashes of the old Matt Milano. But I think personally they need to rehaul the linebacker group. They need to move Terrell Bernard to weak side linebacker. Like it needs to happen. Like I need him to move to weak side linebacker like I need oxygen at this point. And they need to sign a significant middle linebacker in free agency like a Quay Walker, like a Micah McFadden, like a lateral investment, like a Jack Sanborn, some shit like that. Because unfortunately, Matt Milano's previous AAV $6.3 million and spot check salary projection $4.5 million. So just like Daquan Jones, whether we re-sign him or not would not come down to money. $4 or $5 million, damn near around there. Fine, re-sign him. I don't care. But it comes down to level of play and injury concerns and history. Personally, I want to let him walk, and predictably, I think he walks. I think he fit perfectly for the Sean McDermott style defense, zone style defense. He at one point was an elite coverage player. I still think he's very good to great coverage player. Maybe he gets burned a few too many times now with his age and injury history, but yeah. We're going to move TB, Terrell Bernard, to weak side. There's no room for Matt Milano anymore, and I think he walks predictably. Next, man, they are infatuated with this player. Me, not so much. AJ Epinesa, defensive end. 27 years old, still very young for a guy that's literally about to get a third contract in the NFL. His rookie deal, his second deal from the Bills, and then his third contract wherever he goes now. Previous AAV, $6 million. Spot track salary projection, they're only giving about a $500,000 bump, $6.4 million per year. What I personally want to let him walk. I know we need edge help. I know Landon Jackson didn't prove anything. I know we have to rehaul the edge group for the millionth year in a row. Like, WTF, what are we doing there? But I don't know. Like, AJ Epinesa, are you really going to give him a third contract? Are we really going to screw around with AJ Epinesa again? We know what Epinesa is at this point. He starts off really hot, and then he disappears. His ceiling, he has a pretty solid floor, good enough floor, I should say, rather. But there's no ceiling there left anymore. You know exactly what you're getting from AJ Epinesa. 2 to 4, maybe 5 sacks if you're lucky. He's surprisingly pretty good against the run. But we already have a power rusher in Greg Rousseau. We already have a player like him, assumably, and Landon Jackson in the pipeline. It needs to be rehauled, and I think this is the exact type of player you walk away from and say, wash your hands from, if you will, whatever that freaking phrase is. I don't know. I would like to let him walk personally. Predictably, I think, unfortunately, Brandon Beane is going to give him a third contract for whatever reason. Sean McDermott or not, Joe Brady or not, Brandon Beane specifically, him mainly, is just infatuated with AJ Epinesa, unfortunately. So I don't agree with it, but predictably, he'll probably come back. David Edwards, guard. This is a guy whose market has ballooned over the last month or so for spot check, and I really don't understand why. I'll get to it. 29 years old, previous AAV, $3 million. So obviously he's worth way more according to spot track because their salary projection is $19.9 million per year. That is a guard resetting contract. I like David Edwards. I think he's a very good guard, but that's like elite guard money. He's 29 years old. And are you really going to give a 29-year-old a 4 year deal and he'll be in his early 30s to mid 30s at that point? No. I want to let him walk, and predictably, I think he goes somewhere else. Connor McGovern goes somewhere else. David Edwards goes somewhere else. I'm not giving them market resetting contracts at their respective position. I think you could very well have an offensive line because you have a few guys in the pipeline like Cedric Van Granger and Alec Anderson. You've drafted them. You've signed them as undrafted free agents. You've developed them from practice squad to active roster. I think very realistically our offensive line could look as follows next year and beyond. Deion Dawkins at left tackle, Alec Anderson at left guard, Cedric Van Granger at center, Osiris Torrance, Cybo at right guard, and Spencer Brown at right tackle. I really think you need to start building this offensive line around Cybo, Osiris Torrance, and Spencer Brown on the right side, and then you get fill-ins, the guys that you developed, like Van Granger, like Alec Anderson, anywhere else. I'm just not giving market resetting contracts. They're very good to these two interior offensive linemen. You've developed other guys for a reason, and Tylen Gribble as well. Throw him in that group per se as well. Next, Trey White, corner, 31 years old. Trey White knows what he is at this point. Previous AAV, $3 million. Patrick sales projection, $1.2 million per year. I think that's great. I think 1 to 2, maybe $2.5 million per year is financially feasible. I think Trey White won't even test the market. This is a contract that I think could get done a week or so before free agency. We saw him at the Ravens. Unfortunately, garbage. We saw him at the Rams. Unfortunately, garbage. He fits in Buffalo through and through, and he only works in Buffalo with his age and injury history at this point. Now, ideally, he's only a spot starter if you need him, because ideally the corner duo going forward is Christian Benford and Max Harrison, and maybe Trey White's like that big-bodied safety dime package linebacker role type guy that we've seen over the last few years or so under Sean McDermott. I think this is right around the price range for him. I think Trey White realizes he only works in Buffalo, and why would he want to leave? So what I want, bring him back, and predictably, I think Brandon Beane will kind of do a solid with him and bring him back predictably. So 2 staples, vaunted staples over the last 8 or 9 years or so of this team and franchise as a whole. Different pedigrees, because I think Matt Milano will walk, unfortunately, but I think fortunately Trey White will come back on a vet minimum, maybe a little more type deal. Next, Mitch Trubisky, 32 years old, previous AAV $2.6 million, and Spatcher sales projection $4.4 million. I think that's a tad high. I don't think it's egregiously, grossly high, guys, but I think that's a tad high for a backup QB like him. I think 2, 3, maybe pushing $3.5 million, damn near $3.5 million is okay for him. He's shown in week 18 he can be a serviceable backup. Now, I don't think this will happen right away, because I think Mr. Trubisky will test the waters. Could he be a bridge type QB or competition for a rookie, like someone who just needs to get by, like a Jets, like a Dolphins when they move on from Tua, like a Cardinals when they eventually inevitably move on from Kyler Murray in a month or so, like a Falcons if they cut Kirk Cousins. You see the point. So I think this could drag out for a few weeks, but I think eventually he'll realize there's no market for him anymore, and he's kind of best friends with Josh Allen in Buffalo when he's in Buffalo or not. So I think I want him back, and I think predictably he comes back as well. Next, Sludge. Reggie Gilliam, 29 years old, previous AV for a fullback, $2 million. They don't have a Patrick salary projection, which is bullshit. Fullback should get recognized as well. But this could I don't want to say this could become an issue, but this could get a little tricky here. Pat Ricard made the Pro Bowl. I think that was such bullshit. Like, he played 6 total games. No, he missed 6 total games in the NFL this past year for the Baltimore Ravens. That's such bullshit. I think Reggie Gilliam Sled should have easily made it in the AFC. But just complete bullshit, if you ask me. But is Sledge going to get a market resetting fullback contract like CJ Ham of the Vikings, like a Kyle Juszczyk of the 49ers, like a Pat Ricard, speaking of Baltimore, with the Ravens? Maybe, maybe not. I think he'll be back, though, and I think he would love to be back, and I think predictably Brandon Beane knows this is a staple of the tush push. This is a staple of the elite run blocking zone scheme, if you will. So I think predictably he comes back. Next, DeMar Hamlin, safety, 28 years old, previous AAV, $2 million on that previous contract. Right around there, spot trick sale projection 1.8 per year. So I think you're looking at 1.5 to 2 million, somewhere in that ballpark, somewhere in that range. Listen, guys, DeMar Hamlin never should be a top 2 safety for you. He should never be a preferred starter going into week 1 or at any point. But an injury fill in here and there, you could do much worse. As a 3rd or 4th depth type safety, injury aside this past year, who's a high-level 4-phase special teamer, which means kick, punt, kick return, punt return. If you didn't know quickly, I think he's, at the very least, serviceable type depth. So would I want to bring him back in prediction? I think he resigns. Cam Lewis, I'm classifying as a defensive back because in college he played outside corner. Then the NFL he's been the safety. He's played slot corner behind Taron Johnson and filling in for Taron Johnson when the play has dipped or the injuries here and there, or he's the third dime pseudo linebacker hybrid safety type role. Cam Lewis is 29 years old. Previous AAV 1.6 million. Patrick sale projection, that exact number, 1.5 million per year. I love Cam Lewis. He's a little redundant to Jordan Hancock, but I think he can mentor Jordan Hancock as the veteran that Hancock's a very young second-year player. So what I want to bring Cam back. I think he's a special teams ace as well, and he can mentor Jordan Hancock in that role. My prediction is he resigns. Next, Jordan Phillips. This will be quick. Defensive tackle. You guys know my disdain for Jordan Phillips over the years. 33 years old. Previous AAV 1.3 million. Spot check salary projection 1.1 million. That's like less than vet minimum. Vet minimum's like 1.5, 2 million, right around there. That's even less. What I want, let him walk. My prediction is he goes somewhere else. He's the definition of a Sean McDermott guy. The only reason he's there is to hype up the crowd. He waves his arms, let's go. But he doesn't actually contribute. And Sean McDermott keep bringing it back. And Brandon Beane, he needs to get some new phone numbers because he's bringing back these old S players like him, like Shaq Lawson, like Jordan Poyer, although Jordan Poyer was surprisingly pretty good this year. Next, Shaq Thompson, linebacker. This is another big-ish name on here. 32 years old. Previous AAV 1.3 million. Spot check sale projection 2.4 million. I think that's right around the range 2, maybe 2.5, 4 per year. I would love to have him back, but he was talked to with the media the day after in locker clean out, the day after McDermott was fired a few weeks ago, and he was saying, I would love to be back with the Bills, but I want to go somewhere where I can start. And if we're gonna overhaul the linebacker room and move Terrell Bernard to weak side and sign some other middle linebacker in free agency or a significant investment in the draft, I prefer a free agency route. But we'll get to that in a week or so. That's not going to happen in Buffalo, unfortunately, for the starting opportunity. So I would love to have him back, but my official prediction is he goes somewhere else. The problem is around the league, he has no Sean McDermott team to tether himself to, if you will, to tie himself to, if you will. So, yeah. Matt Prater, kicker, 42 years old, previous AAV 1.3 million, Patrick salary projection 1.5 million per year. This is pretty easy. He'll probably retire. We won't get any cap relief because he's just a straight up UFA, unrestricted free agent. I'm not in favor of bringing him back, although he's pretty freaking decent for us this year. But according to Brandon Beane, Tyler Bass is going to be our kicker next year in 2026. I'm in favor of bringing in significant competition for him, but that competition isn't going to be Matt Prater, so it's twofold. Same here. What I want, go somewhere else. What I want, let him walk. And my prediction is go somewhere else. Technically, I think he retires. Next, let's see. And that's my page. Brandon Cooks, wide receiver. This is interesting, right? Because he came in at the end of the year and actually provided a spark. He gets open, although he had some crucial drops early in his Bills tenure, if you will, the 5 or 6 games he played with us. 32 years old, previous AAV 1.3 million per year. Patrick sale prediction 3 million per year. I think that's pretty good. 2.5, 3, maybe 3.5 million if he sits around for a bit. What I want to bring him back. In my predictions, he does ultimately resign, but there's a caveat with this. I think this is a May, June type shit here. I don't think he resigns during free agency or before the draft, actually. If you're asking me honestly, saying, Aiden, when do you think he resigns? I think if they go through free agency, if they go through the draft, if they just need another downfield open target who has veteran experience, then they bring him back. Think of like a Leonard Floyd type investment a few years ago. Think about like a Ty Johnson type off the street. I could definitely see it, but I think this is going to take a while. It's a May and June type thing. He'll just sit around till the Bills page him and need him, if you will. Jordan Poyer, safety. This one's pretty easy. Kind of like Matt Prater. I do think he technically retires, but 35 years old. Previous AAV, 1.3 million. Patrick sale projection, exact same, 1.3 million. What I want, let him walk, and prediction, go somewhere else. Officially, I think he does retire. Listen, Jordan Poyer stabilized this position. We're bringing back all these guys like Milano, staples of the franchise. Jordan Poyer, Trey White, staples of the franchise. I think Poyer retires. I think Milano walks. I think White is back on a veteran minimum, maybe a little more type deal. You have to move on. You have to phase out some of these old guys of the McDermott era, like a Daquan Jones, like a Matt Milano. Maybe there's a conversation about cutting Taron Johnson, like a Jordan Poyer. I would love to see some other big free agency investment next to Cole Bishop. I like the idea of having a veteran next to Cole Bishop, but not like a veteran who's like 31 plus years old, like 28 to 30, maybe pushing 31 years old, realistically. So I think Poyer retires. Next, Darnell Savage, defensive back. Now, he's 29 years old, surprisingly enough. I didn't know he was that old. I really liked him coming out of Maryland, but he was good in the Packers for a couple of years, and then he bounced around. Moderately big free agency signing a couple of years later to the Jaguars this time last year, and then he signed the Commanders practice squad, Commanders active roster. He was cut and then claimed by the Bills. Previous AV on the claim, $1.2 million. Patrick sale projection, $2.6 million. He hasn't really done anything to deserve that. I think we're looking at $1.5, maybe $2 million. I want him back. You might say, Aiden, that's redundant. You have a versatile guy like that in Cam Lewis. You have a young guy like that in Jordan Hancock. So 3 guys that are like damn near true defensive backs that can get the job done in terms of versatility and alignment and all that across the field on the back end. Okay. I want as much competition as possible. We don't know how Jim Leonard's going to fit these puzzle pieces, if you will, for all intents and purposes. We don't know what scheme. This is a brand new scheme. This is a brand new defense coordinator, Jim Leonard. Bring back as many guys as possible who can compete for depth roles, starting roles. So next to Cole Bishop, bring back DeMar Hamlin, bring back Cam Lewis, bring back Darnell Savage. I'm fine with that redundancy. We don't know how this is going to shake out, literally and figuratively, for the roles of this defense under new defense coordinator Jim Leonard. Bring back as much competition as possible because we don't know how it's going to look. So I want him back, and I do think ultimately Darnell Savage is back. I could see him waiting around into April, depending on how the competition goes and who the Bills bring back. But yeah, next, Gabe Davis, wide receiver. Torn ACL is going to miss a majority, if not all, of next year. 27 years old, previous AAV $1.2 million. Patrick Taylor projection $1.6 million. That's too much. Probably 1, maybe 1.3, 1.5 if he's lucky. What I want, let him walk. My prediction is he goes somewhere else. I could absolutely see him signing with some practice squad technically, and then he's placed on practice squad IR. Then once he's healthy, which is probably in the playoffs at best if he's lucky next year, just like he did with the Bills last year. Next, 21st UFA, 21st out of 21 unrestricted free agents for the Buffalo Bills. Mitch Wishnowsky, punter. What a journey this punter was. We went with 3 different punters. Brad Robbins comes in as terrible week 1, cut immediately after week 1. Cam Johnston is pretty good former Steelers punter for 2 or 3 games, but then he gets lit up by some defender who is called roughing the punter specifically, and then he gets injured, pretty severe knee injury. And then Mitch Wishnowsky comes in, and then he's pretty good. So I think you finally found one here. 34 years old, $1.2 million was his previous AAV just now. Previous sale, they don't have a salary projection, which I'm not surprised. A 3rd punter of the year for the Bills on Spot Track. What I want to bring him back in prediction, re-signs. You went through 3 punters, you finally found one. So bring back Mitch Wishnowsky. Last, Sam Franklin. I said that was the last one. This is the last one. Yeah. Sam Franklin, technically a safety, but he's a special teams ace. 30 years old, previous AV, $1.2 million. Patrick sale projection, $1.8 million. I want to bring him back. I think he's an elite special teamer, but he's been with Chris Tabor his whole career, who is now the special teams coordinator of the Miami Dolphins, leaving us in that same role this past year. He was with Tabor in Carolina, with Tabor in Buffalo this past year. And he's probably going to actually, I know for a fact, 99.9% sure he's going to follow Tabor to Miami. So I would love to have him back. I think he's a special teams ace, but I think he goes somewhere else, specifically follows Chris Tabor to Miami in the same role. Next, a couple restricted free agents that will likely be back at the Bills. They can place a tender on him, or they can sign an offer sheet with some other team, and the Bills have what is it, 72 hours, so 3 days to match that if they want. First, offensive tackle Ryan Vandermark, who is 28 years old. He's serviceable depth, and we saw when Deion Dawkins was injured, he's pretty serviceable as well as an injury replacement left tackle. I could see some other team not throwing money in, but viewing him as a starter. Ultimately, though, I I don't think the market will be as big. I think he continues to develop under. I don't think Andrew Cromer will be there anymore. But if we want to trade or cut Deion Dawkins to transition from these older offensive linemen and continue the theme with moving on from Connor McGovern, Dave Edwards, and Deion Dawkins, I know bold, but just hypothetical scenario thrown out there. I think Ryan Van Ryn could be in the mix for the starting left tackle next year. Keep the developmental depth going. Speaking of developmental, Alec Anderson, offensive lineman, 26 years old. I say offensive lineman because he could play tackle in a pinch, although he was kind of a disaster in the Pittsburgh game at right tackle. But that's not his forte. That's not his thing. Predictably, I think he's going to be the starting left guard. It's the clear, seamless succession plan to David Edwards. And I've liked what I've seen from him. He's a very good center. Although I think Cedric Van Granger will be the succession plan, to McGovern there. And I think Alec Anderson will pretty seamlessly take over as left guard. So restricted free agents, I think, will be back. I'm more confident in Alec Anderson being able to be retained than Ryan Vandermark because some team might overpay with the tender or offer sheet for Vandermark. Priority of free agents I want back in 2026. So out of the 21 free agents that we talked about here today, unrestricted, there's only 10 that I technically said what I want selfishly, I want to bring back. And there's nothing here that concerns me. Who cares? This is just an order for fun of priority. 1, Reggie Gilliam. 1, fullback Sledge. I want him back for the zone blocking schemes. I want him back for the elite run blocking schemes. I want him back for the tush push. Number 2, corner Trey White. Ideally, he's your direct backup to Hairston and or Bedford. 3, linebacker Shaq Thompson. I want him back, but unfortunately, like I explained and expressed, I think he goes somewhere else to pursue a starting job. 4, DB Cam Lewis. I think he's very versatile. He's just the older version of Jordan Hancock. 5, QB Mitch Trubisky. I think he'll sit out there for a few weeks, and he's going to realize that there's no market, so might as well back up your best friend Josh Allen again. Number 6, wide receiver Brandon Cooks. He gets open at a very good level, and at 32, 33 years old, he can still get open with the best of them. So I think this could be a May, maybe June type signing if they don't get what they want through other events like free agency and the draft. Number 7, safety DeMar Hamlin. I think it's probably the depth. Number 8, DB Darnell Savage. I'm interested to work on that versatility. A lot of versatile DBs here with DeMar Hamlin, Darnell Savage, Cam Lewis, and Jordan Hancock specifically. Bring them all back. Make them all compete under this Jim Leonard style of defense. We don't know how it's going to shake out. Number 9, punter Mitch Wisnowski. You went for 3 punters this year. You finally seemingly found your guy. Bring him back. And then number 10, Sam Franklin. I would love to have him back as a specialty ace, but like I keep saying, predictably, he's probably unfortunately going to follow Chris Tabor to Miami of the Dolphins. Anyways, guys, most important show kicking off. Our offseason content is out of the way. How and if the Bills can retain their own free agents. Again, not a lot to be overwhelmed with, but there's your primer for internal free agents, if you will. Next week's episode, because once a week going forward, we're going to start our offseason previews from the lens of Bills rivals. So we're going to go over the offseason previews for Chiefs and then the rest of the ACs. So Chiefs, Patriots, Dolphins, Jets, biggest rivals. Please look forward to that. And then, of course, right before free agency, we'll end it off with going over offensive free agent targets for the Bills in the episode, defensive free agent for the Bills in that episode, and then keep your head on the swivel. Let me start. Keep your head on a swivel for free agency. So you can follow me on Twitter at AYN13 if you want my instant reactions, whether it's on a real football lens, real Bills lens, or just fantasy football in general. Please follow me on Twitter/X at AYN13. You can, of course, watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Let me know down in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. How would you attack, if you're a Bills fan, which if you're watching this, I appreciate it, I assume you are. How would you attack bringing back some free agents? Would you give notable guys like Connor McGovern and David Edwards market resetting contracts at their respective positions at the top of the market? I personally would not, as I explained today in this episode/video, but yeah. And of course, please like and subscribe. Please share this episode and channel with anyone and everyone you know. Thank you for the support as always. I will see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your week. Can't believe we're in the offseason now. Favorite time of the year. I love team building. I love prepping for potential free agents targets. It's incredible. Guys, see you in the next one. Goodbye.